Hi, Lisa. Hi, Corinne. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
This happened last time, didn't it?
Did.
There you go. We're rocking and rolling.
Oh,
Can you hear us
can
now?
now?
You bet.
Oh. Okay, that's
It's
good.
magic.
Cause yeah, we've been having issues with this, so.
Uh, So you have three. If we know Frank's gonna be late, I'll leave it up to our president, chair, CEO, what were all his titles? Chief?
Lady leader.
Yes. Not that it's up to me, I'm just saying, we're ready to go. That's what I'm trying to say. The tech's ready.
I'll wait till my phone says 5:30.
Got it.
Are we expecting Pat?
Pat's here, Michael's here. And
Oh.
Frank could be a minute or two late and Angie is not able to attend.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's not even 5:30. So did it turn into a beautiful day down in North Hero, or did it the cloud kind of hang around?
Yeah, it's kind of gray,
Actually-
I wasn't here.
But we got a little teeny rain, didn't we?
a little bit of rain.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was sprinkling when I drove home at 4:45.
Yeah.
All right,
Right.
5:30. We'll call the September 24th, 2025 capital improvement plan committee for the town of North Hero meeting to order. We do have a quorum, Jim, with you, me and Pat. So are there any adjustments of the agenda?
Don't know.
I'm good.
Okay, we're good there. Any public comment? Any public present? It doesn't appear as though.
No.
Okay. Ranking model, results of weighted averages for multiple funding sources. Frank is walking in. How about we go to a bond vote update?
Sounds good.
Yeah, while Frank's being settled.
It passed. I know. So we have two new buildings we're gonna construct in the next 14 months.
What's the schedule?
Start construction in March, finish up by Thanksgiving next year. Goes out to bid in November, right, beginning of November, and by the end of November, we'll know who. Hopefully, we'll have bids to decide on in December.
When do the bonds go up?
So bonds application goes in November, and December. There is a webinar at the end of October for the winter pool. We would know the rates in February with monies being dispersed in March.
Okay.
Carl received some information from the USDA that there's a possibility we could apply for low interest loans through the USDA, which may be a lower rate than the Vermont Bond Bank.
Wow.
Because of our income per capita, we're too high, so we couldn't do any grants through the USDA, but we would be eligible for the loan program. So Corinne and Carl are looking into that. And I had a meeting this week with our banker about bond anticipation notes in case we do go with a bond and can't get the money till March, that we may need some funds before that to get the project kicked off. So things are underway.
Congratulations. For all the work.
Yeah.
Actually, part of the work is just beginning.
That's exactly what I was thinking, like, really, it really hasn't been a lot of work, so work is coming, but.
Are we highly likely to get the bond, get the money, the bond?
The bond be approved? I
uh.
would think so. We have very little debt. So, and I think in statute, you can, up to 30% of your grand list or some crazy number, so.
There are a lot of towns, you know, when I go to trainings and stuff,
Uh-huh.
but just they always have in their budget a certain level of debt service. They just anticipate every year so much, and it's usually a percentage, and then they determine, this is how some towns decide to keep up with their projects. They just debt them all. We're trying to do a CIP to kind of
Right.
plan for
mitigate
them,
that,
yeah.
but. You know.
All right, are there any questions regarding the bond? All right, well, thank you for that update. Let's go back to item number 4, excuse me, the ranking model results of weighted averages for multiple funding sources.
So in sitting down to go through this, I started to think about some other concerns and broached them a little bit in the last meeting. So as I sit down to go through it and create models, right, we're trying to, we're talking about providing a weighted average for multiple funding sources. So concept is fine, but like what we have with the grant booster, the grant calculation, right, we actually have solid numbers and we use the percentage of the overall funding that's covered by the grant to give it the extra boost. What we really have on the rest of it really is, you know, funding sources, but really no breakdown of the contributions that they're making to the overall. Now, in thinking it through, maybe people think differently. I don't think creating a weighted average just off of the scoring methodology, right? The point system that we're applying, 1, 2, 3, 4 points, isn't necessarily, I don't know that it gets us any farther along than we would be using those numbers in the regular ranking process. So.
You need to have some weighting.
That's right. So. You know, I mean, ideally, I look back through a bunch of the project forms and I really didn't see much in terms of delineating, you know, the funding by category. Well, that for, you know, the water department or some of the big projects, we know the firehouse will be, you know, mostly debt. But, you know, some of the other ones, donations, like that's a big question there, right? Donations for the firehouse came out to be, you know, 0.06% of the overall cost, right? So, and we didn't even know that, I think we found that out since the last meeting, maybe, so. You know, if we can try to pin down numbers, and maybe it's just something for next year when we go to redo, you know, take a look at the forms and see if we've learned anything. That we ask for, you know, a breakdown of the total cost by funding category.
As a percentage, and then the
Right.
percentage relates to the score. So if
And then
it's
we can use that.
50% grants, they only get 50% of that grant.
That's right.
Gotcha.
So there's a 1 -0.5.
So,
That
right,
was-
if they would get 3 points for 100% grant funding, it would be 1.5.
Gotcha, that's what I mean.
Yeah, based on a 50%.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
okay.
the funding.
I mean,
That
I,
makes
and it's- I like the methodology for the grants just because it's clear and it's directly related to the percentage that it's contributing to the overall. But just to like create another calculation using the same points. And weighted average is tough because what are we're weighting the weight, or weighting the grade, you know, the point assignment.
Mhm.
So it's almost like it's a circular
Yeah.
discussion
Mhm.
if we don't have actual hard numbers to work off of. And even if it's an estimate, right, where they say, okay, we think it's gonna be about 10% donations, it'll be 30% grants, and you know, the rest will come from annual budget or reserves. That's helpful, right? Even if we got, because we know the overall, we just apply the percentages. They don't have to give us the dollar number, but just something. And look, it may change, right? Those numbers may change over time. But in terms of coming up with a weighted average for the other funding sources, you know, I just ran into that issue and trying to lay it out and trying to see what we're really getting out of it. It's almost like we're nesting them up, you know, the same calculation within another one, if we just use the point allocations. And, you know, one of the other things we talked about last meeting was, you know, we have 3, you know, project reasons, right? Kind of, you know, enough room for that. We have 3 funding sources. So projects that have more than 1 reason or 2 reasons, we're gonna score higher, right? Because they get extra points for being in each category, right? And that was, you know, by design to have projects that cover multiple reasons to score higher. And same thing with funding. But we're also learning and we're going through the process and trying to point out shortcomings or things that we like about the model. The calculation, if we did it that way, the calculation itself is not, I can do that in 10 minutes, but it's really trying to think about what we're really
Mhm.
achieving by adding that calculation to it.
What
And I
was,
think there is value to it. It's just a question of can we get the underlying data to put into the calculation.
what was the project that came up that,
Wasn't it? the
was it,
Pilots?
was it
Was it-
Pilots?
yeah, the
Was
Parks and Rec.
the boardwalk?
Yeah. Cause that got at the bottom. I think, right?
No fun.
And no funding.
No funding, and that got a 7, so there was something that got like double the points because,
I think it was Jim that picked, pointed it
yeah,
out.
Jim, do you remember? You pointed it out.
Yeah, I don't think it was, there was some project, but I think it was more just the idea that clearly anything from donations, funded 100% from donations should be top of the list because that respects the donations. 100% grant makes it easier. So it was more just the idea of giving credit for free money. And the more the free money, the bigger the credit.
By
It was
more,
just,
you mean the higher
it was a
percentage.
conceptual thing regardless of any specific project. So what it does, it nets it down to, okay, well, what's the impact on the taxpayer?
So something that's 100% funded other than taxpayer funds would get the highest score.
Exactly.
Something that's 75% would get something less than the
Right.
highest. So,
Yeah.
so on and
And-
so forth.
And that's something that's 50% tax, 40% grant and 10% donations shouldn't get like a super duper deal just because it's got 3 funding sources. It should be ideally a weighted average would reflect the cost to the town.
And if we had something that didn't have any funding at all, so we knew taxpayers were gonna go up in 1 year. We might wanna like negatively rate that. If that's how
Well-
we're viewing it from an effect on tax. Our goal overall is to make sure taxes go up slow and steady. And somebody comes at us and says, for regulatory or legal reasons, we have to do this, we have to do it now, but we didn't plan. We didn't budget, we need $100,000.
I definitely use the deboosting method as well, right?
Yeah.
Well-
Something less than
Well,
one.
But then, the corollary to that is if it's something that the town plan really has
Right.
as a very high priority,
That's
but
what-
it's not funded, what do you do about that?
Well, that's
Or-
that's up to the select board. Our goal is to like, this is how it's gonna affect your taxes.
Oh, okay, so
I think-
ours is
I
not
don't-
the,
I don't know.
Yeah.
but
So,
the
Corinne-
town plan is a criteria in the model.
So
Yeah.
Corinne, to your point, a project that we have to do for legal reasons will score very high in that category and then score low in the funding.
Mhm.
Because it's not just funding that goes into the total project score.
That's good, right? That's good.
I just, when you were talking, it just occurred to me, does it also matter, like, how much the request is for, like, let's say.
Oh.
Example, like something, so there's like, somebody needs $5,000
Yeah.
or $10,000. Versus something that's, 500,000. Do we look at it in relationship to the whole or individually or the whole for that particular year? Like, let's say we have 1 year where nobody asks for anything except one project is $10,000, 100% taxpayer funded,
Mhm.
and it meets some criteria. How would that rank?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
Frank. We could go in circles on that. That's why you-
We could certainly
Yeah.
give some comparator to like the annual budget. Like pick a number like that and say it's a
Oh.
certain percentage of the annual budget. Right, and then use that in a calculation to, bring it up or bring it down where it belongs in the process,
Yeah.
as long as we like the calculation, but.
Yeah,
That's why with this thing, that's why I keep wanting to talk about it, because, I can make it say anything I wanted to say. Right, but we're trying to do it in a way that we can explain, and that's defensible, and that the taxpayer can explain,
equitable.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I think we have a good construct, we just have to fine tune it with the scalpel now.
Yep.
And as we learn and go through it and bring up these questions.
So again, this is a capital planning group. So if there's only one project in a year and it's for $10,000, that's where we should be looking out at, okay, what other projects are there, and flag to the select board that, here's what's coming down the pipe. And where there's only 10,000 requested that you're going to put in the budget, maybe you should be looking, if you can, putting a couple $100,000 into the reserve fund because of what's coming down the pipe. So to me, that's what the planning is all about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
I do too. I just know that there will be times when boards don't plan. And they still come to you and say, but. But that's a side tangent, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty low hanging fruit. But,
Yeah.
I think our job is to give the select board some
Mhm.
indication of where things fall, taking all these factors into account.
Right.
Right, and they can then, as a group, decide what they're gonna pull out of that and make accommodations for.
Yeah, they have the ultimate authority to decide priority, right? Like what they're willing to do.
And we could sit there with them and have 5 conversations about the hierarchy of the calculation. And people comment 5 different ways.
Yeah, of course.
The 5
Yeah.
5 different meetings.
I think your idea about seeing how it works, use it, use what we have and use it for a year. And see how it works, and if maybe we'll learn from it, right? We can make changes.
Yeah, I think remember, it's also just a moment in time
Right,
that we're only looking at the information we have in front of us. So we're just doing the best we can, so
It's planning with uncertainty. I mean, that's
the big
modeling with
concern,
uncertainty.
yeah.
were you gonna say something, Jim?
It's passed. Again, I'm just kind of thinking of so how do we educate the different boards, maybe to say, oh yeah, what I was thinking, and boy, this is going to complicate the model, so just ignore what I'm saying, which is that you score points for flagging a project years in advance and therefore allowing the town to actually plan to fund that project. If you suddenly spring a project for $500,000 out of the blue, well, that shouldn't score as well as a project where somebody said, we're going to need $500,000 3 years from now to fund this. And so, okay, great. That gives us time to consider setting aside capital reserves. And you almost build that in saying, okay, looking at our capital needs, we've got all these projects. Hey, we can fund all that out of our existing, the kinds of funds that we raised last year. But if you know that there's going to be, again, something coming in 3 years, well, then maybe you're not going to fund a certain project just because the capital is there. It's like, no, we're going to take some of this money this year and start to set a reserve against that other project. That's when it starts getting complicated. But that's, that really is how this thing should kind of work, where we are actually planning and creating reserves against projects in the future.
We've certainly added to the algorithm and taken into account how much time until the funds are needed.
Yeah.
If they score better, and that's certainly something that can be done.
Maybe in the short term, it's just telling the boards, by the way, you're far more likely to get a project for a large amount that you've warned people about years in advance so that we can do the planning and make sure the money is there when you need it. Whereas if you spring it at the last moment, the money may not be there, and you may have to wait until the money catches up with the project.
We'll go right to a $5 million bond vote.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, we're a day late and a dollar short. Yeah.
It's kind of what spurred a lot of this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we've known
That
we
was a
needed this
big
for
one.
20 years and we did nothing.
Right,
Like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if anybody has any thoughts, or I can make up some numbers and put them into the model and just see what they look like, in terms of, just example output. I'm happy to do that. Or we can just, see what get feedback from the select board, or think about it, about the next meeting, whatever we want to do. I'm happy to do whatever.
Thank you. All right, any other questions on that? Okay. Let's go on to item number 6, the Parks and Recreation Pilots Point project update. We talked about it at our last meeting. I don't have any like formal instruction from the committee. But a couple of things we talked about for reevaluating just the project as it currently stands, and whether or not it's worth, you know, that expense to rebuild the boardwalk in a wetland. And there was some discussion about possibly coming forward with a different type of project, but there's been nothing formalized about that. The reality is, you know, there's no money available. And when there was a grant application, I think preliminarily discussed with the state, one of their questions was, why are you putting a boardwalk in a wetland? That there shouldn't be anything in the wetland, even if it's already there.
So like reroute the trail?
Yeah, you reroute the trail and do something different. So there's been no, you know, the board will meet again, not next week, the week after. I'm sure there'll be additional discussion about it at that point. And if we need to have them just formally withdraw that particular request, or however we can handle something like that. We can certainly do that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion, like even like just over by Ingles. And we've talked about this probably in the 2+ years I've been on the board. That piece of property has all the shoreline with no access to the bottom of the shoreline. And so maybe there should be some discussion about coming up with a project or a plan that would actually provide public access to the shoreline over there. Particularly now with the lakes are so low, even though it's rocky, you know, people still might utilize it, because right now you can't get them. It's just covered with trees.
And did you say this was Ingles?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Peanuts has also got a lot of Lakeshore Brazil cliff,
Right.
so Ingles makes more sense. That's just personal curiosity. Thank you.
So I'll talk to Gene and we'll put something communicated to this community.
Okay. So it's in the plan currently.
I think
Even though.
just leave it until,
Just leave it, I mean, because there is a hazard there of what's currently there, so something has to be
Right.
done, right? So, yeah, so we'll leave it and
You
just
know-
say, you know,
Maybe they really need a vision of what, and maybe they have one, and I don't know it. Maybe they really need a vision of what they're trying to do with those two areas. You know, what you're saying is, you know, if you have an opportunity to have lake access and.
you know, part of the challenge we have is right now, you know, we haven't had any rain in such a long
Right.
time. That area is not as wet as it typically is. So, to the point about being a hazard. It's really when it's like, when we have a lot, like this spring, and we have rain, that area is just really wet, obviously.
But the boards are literally falling apart.
Yeah.
Those being there are a hazard too.
Right, so I mean, they have to be removed. If the decision is to not invest in that boardwalk anymore and do something different, there would have to be some mitigation. Or cleanup work.
And they need the money for that, or some money.
So it's. I think
There's
what,
an issue with the state too, right? And that's
Oh,
hanging,
totally.
hanging over this whole
Totally.
project, right? It's permitting, it's fixing something that's already there.
but maybe it shouldn't have been there to begin with.
And that's-
And just because it's always been that way, does that mean
Grandfathers?
you leave it? I mean, there's a whole bunch of new trails up at the top that
Yeah.
weren't there before, so why can't you take out trails if you add trails?
I think part of just, you know, I'll just say this, I know this is a public meeting, I think part of it is just that many of the committee members have been involved in this. In these projects for many, many years. And it can be a challenge. So I'll bring some more information back after the meeting. I'll communicate before and this day to Lisa, before the next meeting.
Okay.
This committee.
okay, sounds good.
All right, FY 26 municipal planning grant application.
So at the last meeting, I brought you the opportunity to have a municipal planning grant. And maybe the possibility of getting some help with facility and equipment maintenance schedules and things like that. The planning commission is updating the town plan and will also be applying for the municipal planning grant. So we would actually be going against each other. And that's a 2-year project, probably about $25,000-30,000. So ours would not be that much. So instead of competing with our own, another board in our town, we probably should not apply for it.
So what is their project?
The upgrade, updating the town plan, it has to be updated every 7 years,
Updating the town plan.
8 years.
So they hire somebody to do that? or-
Yeah, they get a consultant to help them do that. Mhm. So they look at the whole town plan and kind of go through it and
And everything has to be submitted by the 1st of November, right?
for the
Yeah.
application.
For the application. Right.
So there are other resources out there. I attended I think it was on capital planning. And VLCT is really getting into capital planning, and there's a lot of resources as far as equipment schedules and things. And I've reached out to Northwest Regional Planning Commission to see if they have some resources that could help us. So, but at this point, we won't apply for the grant.
Okay. Who's the woman that offered to do some sort of assistance? Can't remember what the subject matter was.
Greta from Northwest Regional
Yeah.
Planning, Greta, yeah, that's who I reached out to
Okay.
for help, and I emailed her this week and I haven't heard back from her, so.
All right. Thank you. For any questions on that?
I mean, unless you all feel we should go against our own.
What is the total pot of money?
30,000 was the max you could get
Request.
per town. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
PC's going for the total amount, right?
Put PC's pulling for the total amount, yeah.
December.
and when would the grant award be known?
January,
Yeah, it's middle of January.
middle of January, yeah, applications are due 11/3, and then they decide, it's supposed to be the end of December, but it was like December 30th, and she said, who does that?
It really happens.
In January.
Who do the applications go through?
The state
Mhm.
to.
Goes through the state, yeah. And they're actually gonna have Northwest Regional Planning help them write the grant. So, application, help them
Yeah.
write the grant application.
Okay, thank you for that. Item number 8, hazard mitigation plan 2025 action items.
So at the last select board meeting, the Hazard Mitigation Committee presented their draft plan, that they have been working on for 2 years, I think? And in it were all of these action items that some of them are gonna cost money. And I know it's too late to put them in our plan for this year, but I think we should be aware of them for next year.
It's also still a draft. It has to go through FEMA.
It's, yeah, and so a lot of them, we don't have numbers for them. There are dates of when they are, the timeframes, so we do have dates, but as far as what the costs are and things, we don't have any of that.
And like the select board asked them to take out the procurement policy one, because we approved that at the last meeting where this was presented. So,
Right, and some of them may not cost any money, but there are ones that will, that we should at least be talking about and planning for next year in our budget, in our plan.
And who is the owner of this? Who owns this process?
This is a special committee with the Hazard Mitigation Committee, which is the Emergency Management Director, Public Works, Town Clerk. Who else? The Select
Um,
Board Rep.
the fire chief, the health officer, some member of the planning commission, which is Andy Alling. The core members have been the select board rep, our emergency management director, myself, public works, and Andy Alling,
Who's the emergency management director?
Brandy Latimer. And we worked with Seam Solutions, so consultant compiled this plan for us. And the hazard mitigation committee, well, Brandy Latimer requested that the subcommittee be formalized as a standing committee, so we now have an emergency management committee, and she plans to meet quarterly. and primarily to review this plan and make sure we stay updated, on these tasks, or at least make progress. She has big goals. I think she also hopes to do some sort of the top exercises and,
Is there like existing plan?
yes. Yep.
So is there a plan to then attach dollars to this in a time, in a?
I don't know. I know in the meeting, when we were reviewing them all, she had categories that she has to submit to FEMA. It actually looked like a spreadsheet when the consultant was working on it. And everything went into a bucket of 0 to 50,000 or 50 to 100,000 or 100,000 and up, and it was pretty broad. Because again, it's a plan and they really.
But even knowing that, probably,
I
would
was
be really helpful.
actually surprised that wasn't on here.
Yeah,
Um,
The spreadsheet, was it part of the,
I don't know. That's, I mean,
Oh.
because,
I don't remember seeing the spreadsheet.
well, that was the only thing we ever saw in the meeting. She would show up at each meeting and she'd have the spreadsheet and it was really long. She'd have to like scroll it along. So somehow she's used that to compile this.
could we ask for it?
I'm sure, yes, and,
It's just a lot of these timeframes are even this year, it says 2025 and.
From 2019.
yeah, well, that's why Brandy asked to become a standing committee. She wasn't involved in the first draft. This is required if you want to qualify for FEMA funding. So
Wow.
the first plan that North Hero did was basically a rubber stamp to say to FEMA, okay, check, we have that. If anything happens here, we qualify for FEMA funding. Nobody was actually really paying attention to it. FEMA has gotten a lot more stringent, probably because a lot of towns are doing that, their approval process, what goes into it, and actually showing progress. And so Brandy's aware of that, and that's why she's like, we need somebody who's actually looking over this and making sure things
It's
happen.
really, really critical. I mean, to be able to really get food funding, if there is.
Well, I mean, of course, right around when we started, this was when the war with FEMA started, so who knows?
Yeah,
But,
but
yeah,
if there's anything there.
we work within the current framework and hope, I guess.
So given our time frame, I don't think we can get it into this year's plan.
Do we know what it would be, what we would be putting in?
Well, anything that has the dates, there's project time frame 2026, 2027, 2025, 2028.
But we don't know the dollar.
Well, we don't know dollars, so there's no way we could get it in any, I think time and just that we just don't
But
have
she
the
might
dollar
have
amounts.
dollars. She might have.
She may have a range.
Well, I mean, all of these ranges, the 0 to 50 to 50 to 100,000, like, I was at these meetings, it was her going to the public works guy. So what would it take to reduce drifts? Oh, well, let's put up some snow fencing. Well, how much would that cost? Oh, it's probably in the operating budget. Like, it was that kind of.
Yeah. But at least
There-
it's
Yeah,
a
so,
ballpark.
and then she would kind of guess, I could see her up there like clicking as, and probably because she does this a lot, she can kind of listen to the conversation and. But nobody was getting quotes, nobody was. Yeah.
'Cause there's a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's worth asking the question and then estimate the cost, but,
It's probably with the discussion with the EMD, Emergency Management Director, because if she is being proactive enough to create a committee and plans to keep up with this. I mean, is she just gonna reach out to she could just be planning to create a time schedule and see who the partners are and just check in with them periodically. Or maybe she's planning on actually helping with some of the projects and coding, I don't know. Cause if she plans to just check in with the partners listed here, then it's really to get numbers that are accurate, we really want to be working with the people on here. Lead party select board assistant, so. Oh, that's the one that got finished. Yeah, public works budget, public works budget, public works budget. Town highway fund, I don't know how that's different than a public works budget.
so many of these things are weather dependent, depending upon how many snowstorms we have, how high, how much rain we get, or how high the lake goes, or whatever low-lying areas get inundated with a bunch of rain water. You know, if they don't happen. There's really no, there's not a lot of expense. But
They do happen.
yeah, no, part of that, I think the planning process is to be like prepared, or try to mitigate or anticipate, like if the lake should get up above whatever flood level. What's our plan? If we get 5 snowstorms, major snowstorms this season, what's our plan? Ideally, you put the snow fence up before.
Right.
Maybe part of it is just what is agreeing or recognizing where those potential risk areas are. Like where should the snow fence go in front of them,
Yeah.
and then figuring out what the potential cost is. But to answer your question, Lisa, I don't think it's gonna happen this year.
Yeah, no, and I knew that. I realized that. I just wanted to bring it to the group's attention. That, yeah.
From my experience in working with FEMA on. Probably from our rating with respect to town plans. What they're really looking for, this is back then, roughly 14 years ago, what they're looking for is that there's actually some action or activity that's happening every year. Meaning the town is being proactive in some regard. In terms of doing something or updating a plan or. Taking things off that are no longer relevant or putting things on that are now relevant because of the new awareness of some potential hazard. It's those ones that, have to be dusted off when there's a actual event and somebody goes to the plan and says, where is this covered in your plan? Well, we haven't updated it in 10 years. That's when FEMA is like. So it's the type of thing that should be involving or active every year.
Would you like to be on the emergency management committee? Well, we checked off the procurement policy and I'm just getting started on updating the BT alert thing, so.
Yeah, I think as long as there's a demonstration about
Yeah.
that somebody's looking at it and thinking about it, or there's meetings held about it, there's discussions. And where there is a need for money or some proactivities. I think it just is all about documenting and doing it.
Mhm.
It looks like some of these things may not even require all that much.
Not
effort,
exactly,
Like,
right,
if
they
that's a
don't,
vulnerable population.
Right.
or
right, yeah,
The education, how to prepare for severe weather.
right.
That's why she wants,
Clarify.
the meeting people to do the work.
To keep working it, and some of it's already in there, construct new firehouse, so, that one we are,
Yeah.
Check things off.
we've got, and they've got, incorporate the updated flood and emergency planning information in the town plan while they're redoing the town plan, so that will take care of that one, which is already, so not all of these are gonna require funding, but the ones that do, we're gonna have to identify and try to find out how much.
I find it's really hard to really comprehend. I mean, I appreciate that they did all this work. It seems like it would be really helpful if we had it like, if we could look at it by year and by priority. You know what I mean? Like in 2025, here are the issue, 2019, here's our issue. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's interesting the way this is presented and it didn't click in my mind, but having sat in the meetings and listening to you, she was also looking for timeframes from, like when she would identify, first thing she would do is identify who would be responsible, and that's the partnership.
Uh-huh,
And then the project timeframe, I guess it says 2028 in here.
right.
And then she'd talk about funding and then she would give it a bucket. Remember that meeting when you were like, they're gonna spend 50 grand? And I was like, no, that's the cap. That's
Yeah.
the category.
Yeah.
But,
but they're not in chronological order, they're not, and maybe
Right.
it may be, this I just pulled out of what was presented to the select board with the whole
Yeah.
plan. I can send you the whole plan if you're interested, but maybe I'll reach out to Brandy to see if there's something, a spreadsheet or
We've already
something
done that.
that has it all for
Sounds
us.
like it.
Yeah.
But at least then we know if there's something that we should, be a little more aware of, and that's immediate, maybe.
yeah,
Okay,
But
I'll reach
lesson
out to
for me,
Brandy.
that's a lot.
she's
work.
very, she's
Yeah.
one of those people that does a ton for North Hero, but doesn't do it in North Hero. She goes to all the county meetings and all the getting on, does the stuff with the sheriff, and she's coordinated trainings for our select board and, yeah,
Really great.
yeah.
So the two, I looked at this three high priorities, two of which are already being done. One was the procurement, one was the firehouse, and the third one was education and outreach, Emerald Ash mitigation for homeowners. Those are the three high priorities. But I was gonna look at this from a,
Yeah, yeah,
funding or
priority,
activity or
right.
action plan, I would focus on
The-
those
The high priority ones, yeah.
first.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what's being done about Emerald Ash mitigation. Other than cutting the trees down.
Which is happening.
Yeah.
Mhm. Hmm.
Any other questions on that?
I'm sure like UVM, like the. The tree people have stuff on
Emerald
the
Ash.
ash and all that, it's not materials, it's just a question of how
Well,
we're presenting. it.
Yeah, exactly. Our tree warden does a lot. He goes to the trainings and I actually have an outstanding email from him. That I haven't even opened. I have like a queue I keep, so I know it's outstanding. So all of this, this is a good reminder for me. I can't keep opening my email. I shouldn't say that in a public meeting, but.
I worked on College Street in Burlington and last month, starting up by the Water Building, which is up at the UVM campus. Going all the way down, almost all the way to, the library. They cut down every ash tree that was on that street, and there were some huge.
You
like,
mean even that are still
They're,
alive?
they just cut them all down. Because they know they're gonna get infected and they've already started planting. I was talking to one of the guys and he said, we've learned in this process, he goes, that all of the trees that we're planting now, we are not planting the same species.
Exactly.
We are not doing monoculture, we're doing a
Exactly.
variety of different, species of trees, so that,
Interesting.
like the Dutch elm disease back in the, what was that, the seventies or whenever that was. And we have the emerald ash borer, God forbid it should ever be the maple trees, but he said, we're just planting like 10 different species of trees. So that they can, some of them will grow. to
Be
make-
robust, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, that's really.
I listened to a great NPR. This is total side topic, but it was one of those people like call in. It was an audio thing. And he was older. He was like in his 80s, and through his life, he'd seen generations of trees die. It was actually very sad,
Oh,
but he did it really
Chestnut.
well. He talked
Yeah.
about periods of his life with like his dad or his
Beautiful. Oh.
kids and watching them. And I just didn't have any idea that that was so common. That every 30 years that you'd have an infestation of a whole species would just
Yeah.
go. Like, it was, yeah.
the islands actually, he was telling me that the islands actually have a lot. of trees.
Just drive around with the dead ones all
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Blonde, right? It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Oh, wow.
so, all right.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Review of, item 9, review of planning commission feedback.
Well,
Do
yeah,
it?
so Lisa, yeah, go ahead, Lisa. She was there.
I went to the planning commission meeting last night and presented the plan to them. I sent it a month, like beginning of September. So they had plenty of time to read it, review it, have questions. They had good questions and good conversation.
Mhm.
And no real changes or requests for, they had good questions and
What were
trying to
your
understand.
questions?
Um, they were interested in library projects. We had just put outdoor refresh 1, outdoor refresh 2, and they didn't have the appendix Ds to see what the actual projects. So they had questions about that. And we brought the spreadsheet up onto the screen and they could see the red that was not funded and were interested in what those projects were and what that meant. And interested in the next steps. I went through the changes we had made to the program.
Yep.
And highlighted the changes that we had made, and then we went over and reviewed next steps, that it would, we get their feedback, present to the select board, get their feedback, then it goes to a public hearing. And when it's finalized, it gets to the budget, so,
All good.
yeah, it was all good, yeah.
Great, thank you for
Yeah.
doing that.
Mhm.
Did that,
No, no.
okay,
Perfect.
Yeah.
all right. Item 10, CIP presentation to select board.
So I spoke with Carl today. I let him know that it had gone before the planning commission and we were ready to bring it to the select board. And I asked him what his preferred method would be, and he actually suggested we try and schedule a joint meeting. So he hasn't run this past his board yet, so I think what I would do October 6th was put it on the agenda. So what I would recommend is we kind of come up with a time when all of us are available, that I know if the space is available, and then we can give the select board one or two options, and if his board is on the same page as him, then we would just schedule it. Was that,
So what time frame are you thinking of?
well, that's a good question. Um. Based on our schedule, when do we actually want to? I was thinking practicality of the meeting, but we should,
So the schedule has, like 2 informational meetings. Remember, if there were
Okay.
changes and things, we would have to bring it back again. So there's actually, like, the second meeting in October was supposed to be the informational meeting to the public. And then there was another one in November.
I'm sorry, Corinne, are you? Do we do that stuff over once?
well, I don't think last year we even went. Am I gonna say this wrong?
Didn't we present it to the select? board?
Like Terry.
I think Terry went to that.
I thought we did.
The whole, but it
Well, we
wasn't.
did the
whole-
information session.
Yeah,
We did the public.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
I guess my question is, now that I'm thinking about this, do you go to the select board after we have the information?
what we did last year was we submitted it to them. And,
Just
and
like-
it's starting to come, like,
like
okay,
email.
like it's gone through all of the, you know, it's just an item on their agenda. It's ready to do the next steps, and then they had a chance to kind of, you know, make sure they're ready to take it to the next step, you know, they don't wanna have the public hearing. If it's a document they haven't seen, so, and I don't know, I feel like this year there are some more decision points, like every meeting, it seems like we're saying, well, that's something we have to ask the select board to decide on. Like the Felix Point project. Whereas last year, it was really a compilation of things that were already happening. So, and this is pretty much how I put it to Carl. So I think that we need to, you know, we've compiled a list of projects, we've ranked them, and some of them need some decision points from you. And the best way to probably bat that around and explain it is for us all to be in the same room together. And he agreed. So that is different from last year, but last year I don't think we presented it with any like, and oh, by the way, we need you to decide A, B, and C before it goes to the public. It was just kind of a list of things already happening.
So we would have this joint meeting or presentation. We'd have informational meetings to make changes based on either feedback from initially the select board or the public.
So the hope is if we have an initial meeting with the select board, what's presented to the public is something everybody's on the same board with. It's gone through the PC. We'll have had a joint meeting. They'll have made decisions. We can make any changes. Any of them submit it to them just by email at a meeting. And they can formally approve it, and then it could be ready for the public, and hopefully at that point, there are no changes. And we scheduled a second one in there, learning that if, you know, the public shows up in mass and they really hate something and we decide to take it out, we do have to have a second hearing. But best case, we don't.
Okay,
Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
so when would the first meeting be?
Well, the select board next meets October 6th.
Which is according to our timeline when we were gonna present it to them at their October 6th, and then the informational meeting was gonna be the second one.
Maybe that would be the easiest thing, if we can all just go to the October 6th meeting. I don't. It's a Monday,
Do we have to warn people? Do we have to do any?
so the select board meeting will be warned, and I would just add you.
Would we be just like an agenda item almost?
Yep,
And then
I mean,
who?
Carl asked for a special meeting, but I mean, he gets. They've had long meetings before based on tight turnarounds, so.
So I'm envisioning like this would be like a 15 or 20 minute conversation as part of their select board meeting.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, I think,
It wouldn't be like like a joint meeting.
yeah, which is what Carl was suggesting, but now that we're looking at this timeline, if that is more practical, then. It's what we can present to them,
Which,
just us coming to their meeting,
and
Yeah.
being like an agenda item on the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being a formal meeting of this committee.
Both both the
Yeah.
board and our committee.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten that far in my mind, actually, if like, when I say joint. It always becomes more of a practical item as to whose meeting it is.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, and
Because I'm assuming they're gonna have a number of things to talk about. This is one of them.
if it was us coming to their meeting, yes, but I think Carl, the way I approached him about this, we were envisioning just a meeting of the two boards sitting together. Probably kind of like this without the next items hanging over them or the public, so they can really dive into the
But it
work.
would be a public meeting.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, if we do it on a Tuesday, that's not a regularly scheduled meeting date for them. They're not gonna, like, they always have a big agenda of just, and they're always
Yeah,
feeling the pressure of the next item as they're working on the current item. So it's usually recommended if you want to focus on something, you have a special meeting.
so that's where I'm getting at, and trying to figure out how much time this would require. So,
And we don't have precedents to go off of,
right,
so, it's a good question.
And do you have to warn that 2 weeks ahead of time? If we
24
were-
hours.
Oh,
A special meeting only requires 24 hours, which is why I was originally thinking if we come up with a list of dates and they just agree with one on the 6th, then we just schedule it. But I hadn't compared that to the timeline. So if we really want to stay with this, CIP presentation to select board, that definitely reads like we're just going to their meeting. And then the informational public meeting. Every year we look at this and it feels like a tight timeline. We expanded it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. So I guess you're right. Michael, it's about how much time we want.
I'm just guessing, I would be surprised if all the select board meetings will sit down with us for over an hour, have a conversation about all of this outside of one of the regularly scheduled meetings, but I might be wrong.
I was actually surprised when Carl wanted to, but when I posed to him, well, we need some decisions from you. Then no one on that board wants to make hip check decisions, and they haven't really been a part of this process until now. This is the transfer.
they'll want some time with it then.
Yeah,
Wouldn't hurt to get some input from them on our ideas on the model, right, and what the
Yeah,
inputs
yeah,
are.
yeah.
If they don't
Could
like
really
the
change.
ranking or, I'd certainly love to get feedback from them, and that would make the process even easier and better. If they know, so then they don't have to interpret things when they get it, they know what the inputs are already been built into the.
and with a special meeting, you're not likely to get all 5 of them, but there'll be at least a core 3, and I wouldn't be surprised in something like this. I bet you'd get 4 of them.
So the idea would be that the special meeting would be a meeting with us and them to talk strictly about this. When we're done talking about this, everybody goes home.
And that way, we could talk about the ranking model, which we've never had an in-depth discussion with them on, I don't
Yeah,
think.
no,
And we could go over this year's process, and we definitely have some pointed questions for them, don't we?
Mhm.
It's, so,
Seems like this is important enough that we give it that
and
time.
when I explained it to Carl, he didn't even hesitate. He was like, okay, yeah, special meeting.
So it'd be like first week of October,
That would be my hope.
not there, what night do they meet, Monday?
They meet on the 6th.
So it wouldn't be then.
Is that Monday?
That is a Monday.
Monday.
I'm sorry. That did not answer your question. So,
So some night after Monday.
so Tuesday is the Parks and Rec. Wednesday is the North Station, but how long do you think that would be? Could we do it at 6 after that one?
yeah,
On the 8th?
I would say, they've been kind of busy now that Dawn's coming. I would say 6:30, but
What meeting is that, Lisa? Sorry.
North Station Building Replacement Committee meeting. They have a meeting on the second Wednesday of the month.
so if we did it at 6:30 on the 8th,
Because if not, then
That's a
DRB is
Wednesday.
on Thursday. We'd have to go to Tuesday, the 14th or Thursday, the 16th.
I mean,
I'm available the 8th.
Jim, you available the 8th?
Via Zoom. I have a bike ride that I'm organizing on the 8th. so I can't get down there.
What's on?
6:30 would be what I recommend.
Yes.
We can check with Angie,
I'll,
so somebody will just communicate back to us once it's.
Yep.
All right,
So we're gonna talk about the model. We're gonna present the plan as we have it. We have,
what, other just,
what are the other questions we
the
have for them?
decisions that
Yeah.
that we think.
So there are the two projects that are not funded. And maybe the Pilat's Point is
Yeah.
still up in the air, so, and then there's the radar signs and where they want to fit that as far as funding. And then they'll have to decide on the hearing dates.
On the other hand,
No.
if they're prepared to put us on the agenda, I can be there in person on Monday, the 6th.
You know, you can do agenda planning outside the open meeting law. Maybe I will send an email to the whole select board tomorrow and get, now that I know our parameters better, that we might want to plan in advance of the 6th. Does the 6th work for you guys as well? If like instead of, or I know we would prefer the 8th as a special meeting.
But what time on the 6th?
They meet at 5:15, but I could,
But do they have a regular agenda to do?
yeah, so it would not be the preferred.
Yeah,
They'll go on,
Yeah.
it'll go on forever.
Yeah.
They'll go crazy. They won't, I think the model really needs,
Okay.
they need to really
yeah, I think
focus
that's
on that.
yeah,
Think about that.
I thought we circled back to. Be
Well,
better
I
to
agree
have.
with you, and then Jim chimed in that he
Yeah.
could do
He
the
could do
6th,
it,
and I
but-
thought, well, maybe that would be better than nothing, but you, I agree, so.
What about the 9th? That's a Thursday.
Well, the DRB meets, but we
Oh,
could do
you
an
said
earlier
that.
meeting, if we met at 5. We could do 5 to 6, if, give
Why
ourselves
does
a
it matter
hard,
about the DRB?
well, they have the space,
Oh, this,
yeah. I mean, I'm open to daytime meetings. We got the fun, but.
that would be too busy for you.
I know.
You work, so you can do
Yeah.
that. And Joe works and Harry works. Carl works.
Carl, he seems
So-
incredibly flexible. Yeah, I was being flippant, but I've also done meetings on, nobody ever wants to meet on a Friday evening or a Saturday, and every once in a while the board just really proves me wrong, and that's always an option.
So right now, we're targeted the 8th at 6:30. Pending,
Would be nice for Jim.
Yeah,
Well, the other option, I'm good generally Mondays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Thursdays, I typically have commitments.
okay, we'll stick with the 8th for now.
okay,
Just went both circles for too long.
thank you. Item 11, timeline review. And determine next steps.
We kind of incorporate.
Nice, yeah, we just kind of did that.
But then it says a bolded appendix G, North, capital operating budget timeline there, that's basically the same thing. All right. Future agenda items.
So our next meeting, if it's with the select board, will be to discuss the model, show them the 5-year plan and the annual capital budget. Review the timeline and set hearing dates. And then the funding sources for the items that we don't have funding for.
And we would still, the idea is that we would still meet at the end of October for the regular scheduled time also.
Because we'll have to prepare the presentation for the
Is that the 20th? Is that the 22nd? Am I looking at the 4th?
1, 2, 3, yep, October 22nd.
So I have to think about the informational meetings. In the context of that also.
And also on our meeting, then you're gonna go over are we gonna get some information from the hazard mitigation people? Or whatever they're called. Or you
At
get-
our meeting in October?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at our.
I'll see what we can find out for
Yeah,
our
if
meeting.
I don't know, somehow we could look at the information a little differently.
Anything else that people can think about in terms of agenda items? So, let me ask you a question, in terms of the informational meeting, we will determine those dates following the meeting with the select.
Because it's really their informational meeting, right?
Yeah.
They're public.
So it'd have to be on one of their regularly scheduled.
Well,
It doesn't have to be, it's what they typically do, but they already have a hearing scheduled for the development regulation amendments, so they're gonna have to.
20th, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they've already done the back-to-back. I doubt they'll have a triple header. So yeah, they'll probably have to do some scheduling.
and the other,
There's a joint.
yeah,
And we'll decide with them, or they'll tell us how they want to present it to the public. Because they'll let us know whose responsibility it is to do the presentation to the public.
I mean, it's their presentation.
So,
Last year Terry took the lead, so they
Okay.
might be expecting that again, so it's worth a conversation. You know, Terry was all gung ho about this, and so they really just showed up. So we do want to make sure we don't all just show up. I think it's staring at the public. So it's a good question.
yeah, I mean, the presentation for the fire station is really good. It's really good. Easy to understand. Slides it,
I think we can,
dog and pony show is very good.
we can give
You need that.
a brief synopsis of what our process is today.
Like basically, we have to show people the plan and be
But
able to
yes,
answer
fine.
questions.
Right,
It's-
right.
Yeah,
The plan and
I don't think we need to go crazy, because whatever we do, people will get used to and expect it every year.
I mean, well, I guess we'll find out. Will they want to understand how the model was developed and how things got ranked? And I mean, that's where,
The public,
yes,
I would be, well, I don't know.
I think we,
I guess you would. decide.
we just give a general overview of it, but not get down into the weeds.
Yeah,
Um,
that could be.
I think we
Very
just refer them
fast.
to the website or something, right? They can see it there. We've got the description now written,
Mm.
we can enhance that, but
yeah. And I'll look what we did. I think we had PowerPoint for last year's
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah, Terry
So-
put it together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll look and see what we did.
Yeah, I would advise doing something more on the minimal side as opposed to in great detail.
A real high level.
Be high level because
Right.
my experiences with public hearings is sometimes people get way down in the weeds and sometimes people struggle as to whether or not to answer it or just say, well, you know, we'll take a look at that and get back to you or something.
And then you're back to another meeting.
Right, I've been to some state meetings where there have been literally thousands of people there, and all they did, they gave people a minute to talk, and whoever wanted to talk, and they said, thank you very much. Whatever they're talking, said, thank you very much. Next, there was no discussion or no, obviously, this will be no different, but, depending upon what the question is, and we talk on, if the answer is readily available, it will be provided.
I mean, this last meeting, the firehouse, people wanted to talk interest rates and final loan amounts, and you're like, how do we know that, you know?
know.
And then you're just educating them on how financing works. It's- Yeah, it's tough. It's. Because in a small town, it's really hard to do thank you very much.
Now, people will not appreciate that.
It's not.
They will not.
Well, again, a lot of it depends on the question, or sometimes it's not even a question, it's just a comment. They want,
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other agenda item will be the town report.
Oh,
So, assigning, because I think we usually have a page in the town report.
that's new too.
Yeah,
Uh,
so,
I can help with that.
well, we have what we did last year, so that's
Any other questions before we call for a motion for adjournment?
anything from you, Jim?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
All right, we have a motion,
hopefully we're good.
second?
Second,
Second.
Okay, thank you, Jim. All those in favor? Aye.
aye.
Any opposed and abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Night.